if you're a creative entrepreneur, you must treat it like a 9 to 5.
Do you have like a money routine? Okay, for example, when you get your money, do you have like plan for it, budgeting, etc.?
Any month where we make more than we thought we were going to make, we have a money market fund. In fact, our goal is within the next year and a half to live off the interest of the money market fund.
Very good.
That's the plan.
Okay. Any advice you'd want to give to someone who, just like you're converting your talent, passion into now your source of income? Hi guys, welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Money Matters powered by MyZola. I am your host, Martha Nzomo. I am an accredited financial advisor. So my work is to help you, people like you, companies, individuals with their finances, ranging from short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So things to do with retirement planning, child education covers, even consolidating your pensions from company A to B to C. That's what we do. And also creating trusts. So today I'm pleased to have a powerhouse in the creative industry, someone who is pro fitness and wellness. And they will be telling us about how to use your talent, your passion to create your source of income. And in case it's your first time joining us today on our podcast, feel free to watch all our other episodes whereby you'll learn more about MyZola and what it all is all about. And last but not least, I am pleased to let our guest today introduce herself. Thank you. Karibu.
Hi guys. Chiki Kuruka, wellness advisor, fitness enthusiast, BN's manager, and just all-round good vibes.
A Fusion 254.
A Fusion 254. Gosh, that's like the biggest one. Thank you. Thank you, Martha. A Fusion 254 CEO, director.
Yes. So, Chiki, thank you for making time. Really honored.
Thank you.
So maybe you can tell us now firstly, let's not go to the serious things first. Okay.
Let's not.
Hobbies. What is your hobby? When did you start dancing? Because that's how I'll say how I met Chiki. I met Chiki now one-on-one last year around July. Maybe she might not remember. And she was our fitness instructor. And when I say fitness, the best thing, Saturday morning, 6:45, I would attend a dance class where she was the one in charge of it. And I loved it. So that was my first one-on-one with her. So I got to know more about her, but she'll tell us about herself today. So so tell us, hobbies, what people don't know about you first.
Gosh, I always struggle with that question because I feel like I'm such an open book. I don't have really anything in the closet. What are my hobbies? I love cooking.
Specific meal or something?
No, none. I think because so much of my day is like people, music, activity. I just like going to the kitchen, putting on Netflix and cooking. And then I get so irritated when someone just walks in because that's just supposed to be my time to just like, to unwind. I'm a huge animal enthusiast. Okay. I love animals to death. I love my 2 dogs.
Namely?
Bijou and Chala. I love them more than most humans. What else? I'm a big family person. Very much so. My mum, my sister. Oh, here's something that you might not know. Me, my mum and my sister all have a matching tattoo that we got together.
At once?
Yeah, we got it all together. And it was the funniest thing because me and my sister have quite a few tattoos. It was my mum's first tattoo.
You guys convinced her, or how did she?
No. So we call ourselves the daisy chain. In England, there's like the English flower is a daisy. And when you're a kid, you like sew the flowers between and you wear it. That's where they get those crown flowers.
Okay.
So we call ourselves the daisy chain.
Yeah.
So we decided to get a daisy chain tattooed. So we designed it. And no, my mum didn't really require much convincing. My mum's like pretty easygoing. So we're there and I decided to get mine on my ribs, which is the most painful place. Exactly. So I was there, my sister was there, but we were both really worried about our mum because we know what to expect. We have tattoos. She doesn't know what to expect.
Yeah. So
we both finished before her and we came downstairs. We're like, Mum, are you okay? And she's going, this is nothing like childbirth. So no, that's something that some people.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah. So other than that, Kuruka, is that your real name?
No.
Okay.
When I first moved to Kenya, which is now just over 11 years ago, how I ended up, so my 2 very good friends, parents run Forever Living.
Oh, okay.
So I've been in the wellness industry in the UK, in the dance industry in the UK for a very long time. So when I first moved here and they were doing Forever Living, we decided to create almost like a check-in center, which was like a more kind of 360 experience. So how to get people more interested in health? Let's add dance to it, because maybe they'll come to the dance and it's a good way for them to talk about aloe vera, for example. So when we were doing that, I was like, okay, we need to think of a brand that sounds Kenyan but still reflects me, or sounds at least East African and still reflects me. Okay. And I remember I was listening to ghetto radio, and they used to always say reggae kuruka. And it's extreme, isn't it? Like a lot. And I was like, well, that's me. And then so when we kind of looked at what it was to jump, and I was just like, well, that's also very much what my sessions are about. Yeah. So yeah, just like that. It's so funny. I never called myself Chiki Kuruka. It was when I did Slim Possible that I was being called Chiki Kuruka, and it stuck.
Yeah.
And that was I just haven't been able to get rid of it ever since. So, ride with it.
You embrace it.
You embrace it, yeah.
Nationality?
Complicated.
Complicated. Okay, we leave it at
complicated.
that.
No.
Okay.
My mum is half Swiss, half Nigerian.
Half Swiss, half Nigerian. Okay.
My dad is half United Kingdom, so a bit Irish, but English. Wow. Half Nigerian.
Okay.
My dad staunchly only defines himself as Nigerian. He left during the war. He was a war refugee.
Okay.
My mum also really defines herself as Nigerian.
Okay.
So I was raised in a very strong Nigerian. However, I lived between Brussels and England growing up, and as an adult, Kenya is the longest place that I've lived.
Ever.
So I feel
11 years.
11 years. So I feel more Kenyan than anything. So yeah, a hard question to answer. I just say global citizen.
Yeah. Global. That works well. Take us through maybe what did you study? Because I'm going to now so that you can explain to us how you ended up doing what you're doing today. Like in let me say university. In
uni, I studied.
Who are you looking at me?
Because no one ever expects it. Metaphysics, logic, and theology.
Okay.
So they're all branches of philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah. So logic is pure math. So it's how do you create a logical argument? An argument is supposed to take particular logical formats.
Yeah.
Most arguments go wrong because it doesn't have a format, you know? So if you're arguing with someone, it's like round in circles as opposed to a logical format. That's the relationship between maths and debate.
Okay.
Maths is a logical formula. So logic is the mathematical logical formula that as long as you learn those formulas, you can implement them into an argument, basically. So it's very much algebraic.
Things that I never liked.
Loved it. Like I was like, I love that stuff. Metaphysics is the science of existence. So how do we know, how do we define, how do we discuss our existence? And theology, obviously, everyone knows.
Yeah. Okay. So what about dancing? Like how did you start? Like was it way back uni?
Yeah. So I started when I was 4
years old.
Or 5. So my parents really believe, I think most African parents really believe, especially if you're in the West, that idle children are just like gonna cause a ruckus.
Problems,
exactly. So my parents were like, any activity, do it. So it wasn't just dance. I did every activity from karate to I mean, anything that you could think of, piano, saxophone, just because my parents felt like spare time was like
idle,
exactly. I mean, they were failing. So dance was just one of those things. I just happened to be good at dance. And I wouldn't even say, in all honesty, that it was me who was like, I love this. I want it. It's just that as a kid, I think if you're constantly praised for something, you gravitate towards the thing that you're constantly praised for. So I started with ballet, the classics, ballet, jazz, and tap. And I just kept getting, so ballet, you do a grading system. So I kept getting distinctions in my grading system. And I eventually ended up, when I was in school, doing part school, part ballet. So they picked gifted and talented students from the age of about 11. So I was doing ballet in school 3-4 hours a day.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Loved. Did I love it? Again, I'm not actually sure.
Mm-hmm.
I loved when You Got Served came out, and I was just like, I have some validation. Then when I turned about 13, 14, so the Gifted and Talented program is actually quite expensive. It's government funded.
Okay.
And they only fund it for people who they actually think it has a chance of like being successful.
Yeah.
So when I turned about 13, 14 and puberty hit, and then hips came in, and then my height came in, and then boobs came in, it was very clear that I was never going to be a professional ballet dancer. Even just my physique was incorrect for it.
Okay.
This is going back, I think things have changed a lot, but this is going back now, like 20 years, you know, where physique was very important. So in England, we have carnival. So I kind of started dancing actually because my uncle had like a float in carnival. So then I kind of transitioned from ballet to soca.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, oh, this is actual dancing.
So that's why the music behind soca.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So I used to do the carnival route. We used to compete in the carnival circuit, and yeah.
Okay. I understand now.
Yeah.
So have you ever worked for a 9-to-5 job?
Yes.
Where?
Yes. Oh my gosh. You name it, I've done it.
Okay.
I think it's very common in Europe. Activities are expensive.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to fund your activities, you
have to.
must work. Yeah. So I've worked in electronic stores.
Serious?
I've done telemarketing. Actually, I worked for 4 years, both of them part-time, one at a mental health care center and one at a dance agency.
Okay.
So, and you know, I did that to pay to intern at Sony.
Seriously?
Yeah. So I was really passionate about being at Sony, but as an intern, you're not making any money, right?
Yeah,
so I would work, I would wake up, I would go to it was a shift work.
So like you enter from this time
to this time. As soon as I got my shift, I would inform the dance agency. I would work around that shift. And what I was doing at Sony was like assistant to one of the A&Rs. So that was wherever I was. So I'd be booking in like studio sessions for the artists, choreography sessions for the music videos, those kinds of things. So 9 to 5, I was working like 12, 13 hours.
That's more.
All to pay then
For
to go
that.
to dancehall classes, to pay to go, you know. So
Yeah. Okay.
very much so.
In Kenya, any 9-to-5 you've ever worked for?
If you've ever managed an artist, it's a 9 to 9.
It's a 24 hour.
It's 24 hour, yeah.
Okay. So as a founder of A Fusion 254, how did that come about? Do you mind taking us through?
Yeah. So I think
or maybe you can even tell the audience, what is this A Fusion 254? Maybe I know it because I've attended classes.
So A Fusion is a recognized curriculum. So I worked with NITA to build a dance curriculum that could be recognized.
Yeah.
That we roll out and teach. So the pillars are supposed to be, first of all, African-centered.
Yeah.
Second of all, with a viewpoint on fitness. So you're dancing for fitness and wellness. Yeah. Thirdly, where you can track progress. So what frustrated me when I first came here is that I come from a very, very like strict background in terms of the classics. Ballet, tap and jazz, it's level 1, it's level 2, it's level 3, it's level 4. It's very clear, okay, you are better because you've been able to achieve A, B, C, D. Yeah. It's not you are better because I personally look at you and think you're better. So when you're kind of like learning, it's very clear what the definition is of success. And as a result of that, if you look here, for example, when you're trying to sell kids classes, adults will always invest heavily into kids going to ballet because they understand that there's a psychology behind it, there's a discipline behind it. Whereas when you're having a conversation about Afro or hip hop or whatever, trying to convince parents who already are not so certain of the ethics of it, you know, maybe they've seen some music videos that they're not so comfortable with. That's what they're thinking about. They don't necessarily know what what stylistically it is. And on top of that, you don't have any real tangible way to explain, look, this is what we're doing. This is the process. So I saw that as a real hindrance because I used to look at my friends who teach ballet and ask, how comes you can teach a class for 2.5? Whereas most Afro dances for kids, you're teaching at 300 to maybe 500 bob. You know, the only difference is the recognition of the curriculum. So that's a very easy solution. Just create a curriculum. So I sat with Nita. It took about a year.
Wow.
Because when you're creating a curriculum, you have to first and foremost do a lot of research to prove why it's necessary. And you have to do, so they go into the market to find out by other instructors, parents, so on and so forth, do you feel like there are these gaps? Then you must be able to very tangibly show what is level 1, what are you achieving, how do you judge it, what are the examination processes, what's the criteria exactly. So it took about a year to create, but I really urge anyone in any field, take time to create a curriculum, even if you don't intend on rolling out the curriculum. Because what I've learned about my own craft in doing that, I could never have learned just, you know, I've been doing this now for 20 years. I learned more in that year and a half than in the entirety of the 20 years.
Okay, fine. So if Fusion 254, now tell us more about it. Like now, if operations, etc. Are you doing it on your own? When you're away, are there people who assist you?
So I have a whole team. So I have a whole team. So Fusion 254 is broken into performance and education.
Okay.
So those are the two pillars.
Performance and
education. The best relationship is when you can combine the two. So, for example, if you're teaching a team that ends up in a performance, that's beautiful because you're working towards something. So our performance pillars, normally we have contracts. So it will be maybe a team of dancers coming to perform for XYZ specific event activation, and how we like to define ourselves in that respect is incredibly professional and striving for excellence. So you shouldn't have any communication problems. The route to payment should be incredibly clear. Guys should be able to turn up on time. Hygienic, all of those kinds of things. When it comes to, the other side of performance is when we're doing things like Soulfest. So taking all of these guys, and Soulfest has been an interesting one because taking guys who never considered dancing, you try and tell like a load of urban ton. Exactly. You try and tell a load of urban ton kids, like, come now, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, like it's a journey. So taking guys from zero to performance ready. It has been a big gap for me in this market because we don't have in Kenya artist development. Whereas if you look at the West, anytime an artist is signed, before you even see them on your screens, they will have gone through years of artist development. Part of that is media training, part of that is stage training. So a lot of guys here, they learn on stage. Which means that as a consumer, you have to go through that journey of them being not so great through till, and some of them don't survive, you know, like it's costly to do that as an artist. Making guys stage ready is then that part. And then when it comes to education, it's then partnering with gyms, partnering with spaces, and just trying to make dance fun, effective, changing the way people look at fitness, changing the way people look at dance, changing the way people interact with their own bodies. The thing that's beautiful about soca, not so much Afro, but soca is very sensual, and it's very much about, as a woman, you feeling sensual and sexy in your own. It's not for someone else.
It's for me.
It's completely for you. So really creating spaces where people feel like that is kind of now the other side of what we do.
Okay, so like when you have, because let's say when you're not around, so you'll have someone in charge, so you train them, etc. and all that, or how do you like make sure things are running when you're not there? Because you see, it's just like any other job, and that's my next point. I'll come to it. how different is it from what we are discussed, an accounting job and dance?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I read somewhere that if you build a company that can't exist without you, you didn't build a company, you built yourself a job.
Yeah.
For me, it was very important that the structures and the systems were in place, that I could be there, I could not be there, and it would still operate. I obviously oversee, even when I'm away, we have like weekly catch-up meetings. Obviously, I have access to the back-end accounts. We have targets, we have KPIs, and I oversee all of those things.
Okay.
But really, the point was never for me to teach. Otherwise, it's just a self-branding operation.
Okay.
So I have a GM and I have a head of dance. So, and then I have a team of about 7. And how we've gotten them overwhelmingly is we've worked in partnership with Young TIT. Young TIT are a street-based organization out of Eastlands. So half of my team actually come from Young TIT, and the plan is to take guys who maybe have had a certain type of training and then train them into our way of doing things. Let them shadow us and then letting them free. So then the GM's job becomes finding more contracts, and then my head of dance's job then becomes managing the team, like basic HR stuff. Are you okay? Were you late? Were you on time?
Okay. When we spoke earlier, there was that thing that in Kenya, in the West, how people view an accounting job, for example, and dance, like in Kenya, most will always run to an accounting 9 to 5.
Sure.
Okay. And then dance, what maybe are the challenges sometimes that come with such ways of thinking, the stigma behind that you've seen being in both, let me say.
I think the reality is you cannot... You must treat the creative arts like anything else, and you can't treat the creative arts like anything else. What I mean by that is, if you're a creative entrepreneur, you must treat it like a 9 to 5. You must give it the same discipline, the same respect as a 9 to 5.
That's true.
So you must, even if you don't have anything on in any given day, you must get up, you must train, you must practice, go out, meet people, network, so on and so forth. So if you haven't put 8 or 9 hours in a day like you would do with a 9 to 5, there's a problem there.
True.
However, we must acknowledge that the creative space is very different. And what I mean by that is this. There is no accountant that, well, partly because the creative space doesn't have the same structures and systems, overwhelmingly because it can't. What people like is up to them. Good accounts are a matter of fact. You see? So it's quite hard to put structures and systems in place for taste and preference. All you can do is create the business around it so that it makes sense. Make sure that we are the most punctual, make sure that we are the most hygienic, make sure that we have the best customer service training and all of those kinds of things. But anything that is based around taste and preference is different to put systems around. So it must be treated differently, I believe. There is no accountant that is going to have to. Now, so there's a difference between wanting to be a dance performer and a dance teacher, right? To be a dance performer, overwhelmingly, you're working with the gig economy because you're dependent on, does an artist have a show? Does a brand have a show? Does an agent, so it's a gig-based economy, That is not the same overwhelmingly as if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, doctor, and accountant, you're contracted to a company, you're an employee of a company, and you're guaranteed a particular amount of work, you know? So as a lawyer, you're not expected to do something else to fund your law.
Commit, this is...
exactly. Whereas with the creative arts, overwhelmingly, it's costly. So you have to do something else to fund your creativity.
That's true.
So it is different. It doesn't mean that it's left. Being an entrepreneur is also different. You know, being a content creator is also different. I think we just learn how to create systems and structures in our particular spaces and make it as human-centered as possible and as fair as possible for the workers so that guys can have a decent life doing what they're passionate about.
Okay. So speaking of, let me say routine, do you have your own personal wellness routine as now Chiki as yourself?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up normally at around 5:30, 6.
Mm-hmm.
I learned from actually one of my kids
Mm-hmm.
to spend the first half hour
Mm-hmm.
with only gratitude.
Okay.
So that can be prayer, that can be gospel music, that can be scripture, that can be, I mean, that's personal in terms of what gratitude means, yeah. But to spend the first half hour of your day with gratitude. So
like
most people wake up and they turn on the news or, and it's quite,
Instagram.
or Instagram, yeah, exactly. And it's quite negative. And what his name is East, what East told me is, that has an impact on your psychology. Don't feel guilty to wake up and say, no. You don't have access to me. My first half hour is mine.
Yeah.
You're not allowed me for that period of time. So I do that. Then normally with a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Then I train always. Okay. So whether I have someone to train or not. I always start my day with training.
Is this Monday to Friday?
Monday to Saturday.
Saturday, okay.
Yeah. And then it's only then that I pick up my phone. Because I manage BN and because A-Fusion works in multiple time zones, overwhelmingly there will be like now for America, for Australia, those things to pick up in the morning. Okay. So respond to those emails, response to those calls. And then, meetings.
Yeah.
Events, calls, yeah.
Good enough. Now I'm going to switch a little bit.
Switch it up.
Money.
Okay. So you're going to give me some?
I pray so. So do you have, because MyZola is, it's mainly like a budgeting tool to assist you. So do you have like a money routine? Okay, for example, when you get your money, do you have like plan for it, budgeting, etc., something that you do on a regular?
Personal or business?
Personal first.
So yes, this past year and a half, 2 years has been a bit of a transition because I am now in the family business of BN.
Yes.
So our money is intertwined with one another. So our personal money is intertwined with one another and it's a family business. So we reinvest back into most
family
into brand BN.
Okay.
And we made that as a very conscious decision, the two of us. Okay, let's say no to holidays. Let's say no to luxuries. Let's reinvest everything back into to brand BN until a point that
you can be
able to exactly. Any month where we make more than we thought we were going to make, we have a money market fund.
Okay.
So we put the money in the money market fund. In fact, our goal is within the next year and a half to live off the interest of the money market fund.
Very good.
That's the plan.
That's really nice.
That's for personal.
Yeah.
For business, being a small to medium entrepreneur is hard, man, because
tell us.
With all the best laid plans, do you know how often clients pay late?
All let's say
99.9% of the time, and your wages still need to be on
you
time.
Have employees.
Your rent needs to still be paid on time. And the thing is, it's unfair to tell someone who's worked for the whole month,
wait.
But sometimes the reality is
you have
to wait because every single client this month is, and especially the last couple of years where the economy has been so trash.
Yeah.
So I would honestly say when it comes to my business, I'm still figuring it out month by month, not in terms of bringing in business, in terms of how do we guarantee that business that we've brought in pays when they're supposed to pay.
Yeah.
Whilst understanding that some of these agreements are also with SMEs and it's a trickle-on effect because someone hasn't paid them.
It's actually
a cycle, you know. So I think figuring out structures and systems to make sure, other than saying we need to do 3 times the work and hope that at least the third comes in
Comes
on
through
time before
the others, yeah.
which some months we're able to do.
Mm.
I would honestly say I'm still figuring it out. And I think if most
Mm.
entrepreneurs were being dead honest, that would be the honest answer
it's
for
true.
most people.
Yeah, it's
because
true.
contracts are only so good.
Mm.
A client that you have a good long-term relationship with, who's like, sorry, I'm a week late, and then they end up
Yeah.
being another week late, then they
Yeah.
end up, but yet you've been working with them for 6-7
Forever,
months.
so-
You can't be like, I'm taking you to court, you know, and then you're hoping to have a long-term, and that's the majority of people actually. So yeah, I'd say for that one, I'm still figuring it out. My
Yeah.
current kind of like psychology is how do we do triple the work so that we
least
can
even
at least, but even these last 2 months, girl.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's good for someone to hear. You know,
Yeah,
sometimes people
yeah.
feel that you have it all figured
Yeah.
out, figured out, etc. But most people might not know that you actually have your own business.
Sure.
You have challenges.
Sure.
But I think there's nothing that's perfect. So any pros, like what makes you happy about your business? Any advice you'd want to give to someone who, just like you're converting your talent, passion into now your source of income? Just anything.
The first thing that I would say is invest in yourself. Kenya is the first country that I've lived in where you can ask someone, what do you do? And they tell you, I'm a dancer. And then you ask them, great, where do you dance? And they're like, well, most of the Western world, actually, your barista, your cocktail waiter, your what, on the side also does acting, dance, does the creatives.
Yeah.
And they use that to invest in themselves, to get better, to allow themselves to network, to be in spaces, until a point where they have enough work that it overshadows everything else. There's a really big comedian in the UK, his name's Mo Gilligan. He's on Netflix, hilarious. I was watching him like for the last maybe, again, 20 years. He talks about it in his comedy special that he was working at a candle shop when he was starting to blow up on TikTok. So he remembers there's this kind of weird moment where people would come into the candle shop and be like, wait, I knew that guy from TikTok. Yeah, his face was visible, but it wasn't yet earning him enough money that it made sense for him to leave his candle shop because he still has bills to pay, you know?
True.
So he speaks about when is the right time, and you have to be, especially if you're in a public thing, you have to be humble enough to know that it's no one's business. You still have responsibilities and you still want to be able to not depend on other people. Whereas I think what happens here a lot is guys, they will put their kind of like, I don't want to say ego, that has a negative connotation, but they give so much weight to what other people think.
Yeah, that's true.
That at the end of the month, they would rather hit up someone, can you send me 2 Gs? Can you send me 2 Gs? Than be seen doing like something else to fund their creativity. So I think the first thing I would say is like, put that aside. Know that creative arts take time, that there's no one straight line, and to be comfortable and okay with juggling many things at the same time. The second thing I would say is sit down and really figure out how your passion best makes money. So for me, it was very clear that I personally didn't want to be in a gig economy. Okay. I didn't want to perform. I didn't want to wait for someone to call me and say, we have a show.
Yeah, like you're depending on them.
That you're depending on them. However, something like teaching and then converting it into something like wellness has a bit more stability. You create a class, you invite people, and it's up to you how much you market and promote that class. True. Depending on, it's not you waiting for someone else. And that's not to say at the end of the month, you make more, you make less.
Yeah.
That's also a misconception. But psychologically, I wanted to be able to at least have the control to be able to manage that circumstance and that situation. Yeah. So I think really sit down and figure out, if I want to be a singer, great. What are the different ways that can make money? Can I sing in bars in the short term? Can I teach? Can I do stuff online?
Yeah.
Can I, like, there are so many ways as you're building a personal brand, be it dancing, be it acting, be it comedy, be it whatever, so that you can be making multiple sources of income so that you're not dependent on the one source of income.
Okay. Then I think I like that you had said discipline. The respect you give any job, it will, I think, also give you that respect as well. So yeah. So actually, we are actually done.
Oh,
Unless
wow.
you have a parting shot, anything to say?
I think my parting shot would just be kind. Because I think overwhelmingly, people don't know what's happening behind the scenes of any business, any person, any individual.
For sure.
So be kind to yourself. Don't allow yourself to be, don't go on this thing we call a phone, on this thing we call social media, and allow yourself to compare yourself with someone else, because honestly, you don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
The amount of people who their marriage looks perfect and then a month later it's a divorce that you're seeing and you're like, 1 second, I swear you guys were just on holiday last month.
Yeah.
You have people who are going through debt and you're like, 1 second, I was just watching you in the Maldives 2 months ago and wishing I was there, you know? So don't compare yourself with anyone. Try and have your blinkers on. Be disciplined. Figure out the different ways that your passion can make you money and income, and be kind to yourself. It's okay if you have bad months and good months. Everyone does. You're no different than even a bank. It's just that the bank has a lot of reserves. So it just says like a legal firm has a lot of reserves, you know. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and share this video. See you on the next episode. Thank you.
Meet your personal finance manager, here to transform your money habits with these powerful features. Budget, to plan where your money goes and set spending limits. No more impulse buying. Income, to assist you with tracking your income and analyzing your earning patterns. Expenses, to record daily expenses and track your spending habits. No more overspending. Savings, to plan for money you will save and track your savings. Investments, to plan for money you will invest and track your investments. Assets, to monitor value of your assets over time and get a complete view of what they are worth. Loans, to track debts, create debt repayment plans and monitor progress toward becoming debt-free.